Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dental Handoff. I'm Dr. Kelly Tanner. Today, I have Charo Earle back with me. Charo, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be back for part 2. But
Part two.
part 2. Thank
Now,
you for
Charo is the Chief Operating Officer and Dental Officer at a wonderful dental organization in Michigan, if you guys don't remember from our last episode. And we got to riffing last time, and I was like, I gotta have you back because she just from your experience, you have so much to tell our audience, and it's things that we're talking about and that I think a lot of people are going through. And the topic, you guys, that we're going to talk about today is staffing and turnover and how to keep your team and tips, insider stuff, what maybe Charo's experiencing as in her role, and maybe how to kind of cut all of this out, retain your team, find the office that you're looking for, and all the things. So Charo, where do you want to start with this?
there's so much,
I know.
to start with, right? But, I will say one thing in particular, with myself being in the dental field for now, gosh, 26 years, I have not seen such of a need, right, in staff members and all around, from the front to the back. I have seen such an influx of individuals, you know, looking for work, but then not finding the right place for
Mhm.
them, or talking to other, business leaders who are looking for talent and not being able to find the right person for their position or their office or their organization. So it's just like, wait a minute. We have people looking, right, on one hand,
Yep.
but then we have people that are saying, no, we can't find the right individual. So what's the problem? Right. And so I'm like, okay, we have to figure out this gap here. What are we missing? Right.
Yeah.
And what I have, been very intimately looking into as I'm interviewing candidates is really trying to understand who they are. Do they align with our organization's values, our mission, ultimately the culture? Because I can teach you how to scan, right? I can teach you how to
Yes.
take an impression, but
Yeah.
I can't teach you how to be that loyal, right? Collaborative, positive team member, right? The individual who is really going to have that patient care focus. I can talk to you about it all day, but is it ingrained in you? What
Yeah.
value? What is your what is your why?
Yeah.
That's really what it is. Because that's how you're going to show up every day.
Yeah.
And
And
what
some people, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
you're
Some
fine.
people think that they know that. They think that they're doing that, right, when they're interviewing. They get in the middle of it and like, "This isn't what I thought it was."
Exactly.
So, I think some of it is that people don't even know their own why, like they think that they do, and so you attract who you are, and
No.
if you have taken a position in an office, is that a reflection of you and where you are in your area of growth? And if you're getting toxicity and some kind of craziness,
Mhm.
what about that attracted you in the first place? Or maybe you didn't know, or do you still stay once you see it? There's so many questions.
That's really good, actually. It's funny you mentioned that. We had an interview with a individual about a week or so ago, and that was one of the things that the individual stated was, the toxicity within the practice. However, it was good money, so that's why I stayed. Now, obviously, after several years, the individual is like, okay, I'm ready to go. So now they're saying money is not everything.
Yeah.
Money is not everything. It's more so about where do you feel comfortable? Where can you give your best to? Where do you want to you don't mind spending 8 to 10 hours of your day because that's technically your second family,
Yeah.
right? People say that they want to find their forever home, and I love hearing that because I want them to be able to find their forever home within, our organization. So, when I'm going into these interviews, it's yes, I can tell you about our company, I can tell you about myself and my experience, but it's I want to hear more about you. And when I say that to them, you can see they light up. They're like, "What? You want to know more about me outside of I've been a dental assistant or a hygienist for X amount of years?" Yeah, I do, because that's going to tell me more about you, and if you are really going to want to stay, and what are you going to bring to the table? What are you going to offer? Right? Do you have plans to go back to school to further your education? And when I say that to them, sometimes they get a little pause. They're like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't say that
Mhm.
because they feel that, well, we're just going to pass on this candidate. That's the total opposite for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to know you have aspirations, you have dreams, right? Because again, what can it's a give and take here. It's a give and take. And so you want to make sure that the company that you are working for supports you.
Yes.
Because
Yep.
what does that mean? You're going to be loyal to them. You're going to show up. You're going to learn. You're going to give your best because you have an end goal. The company sees that end goal. And me being selfish, hey, yeah, bring it back. You go ahead, you go back to hygiene school, you go back to dental school, and you bring it back home if you're looking for your forever home.
And I love that you said that. And I also see their perspective. I remember one time when I was interviewing for a position at a college and I was expecting. And I knew that I needed to tell the employer, and I had no idea how it was gonna go. But I'm like, "There's no way I'm gonna be able to hide this for very long." I mean, even if you wanted to, it's not like going back to school where you can do it at night or whatever. They're gonna know, but I thought, "No, this is part of me." And so people come in with these experiences, having experience being shut down or not considered for something or looked over, and they bring that into the interview. So I think it's about being comfortable with who you are and just in a way that's professional, right? That I am a lifelong learner and I'm always aspiring to take classes. And I'm thinking about even enrolling in a night class to study this and that, or it's on weekends. But I think it's good. I'm to your point. I think it's a great idea to tell your employer about that. So I think that we need to understand what's holding us back from saying that because we may have had a negative experience, but it's a different world now. It's a
Mhm.
different world where employers, I think, understand more now than ever that that they need to meet people where they are because it's not in the time that I've been in dentistry since I was 17, it very much would be from a culture of criticism.
Mhm.
And you didn't feel good enough or ready enough, or people would look at you and go, wow. And just kind of degrading in some ways. Sorry, you guys, if that's offensive to some, that was my own personal experience. I can only attest to that. I don't know if you've had that. But now that we're more aware of this and how we need to feed the soul of people in certain ways, it's got to be a match. It's got to be a match. In order to do that, you got to have conversation. And, not even talking about when you go to talk about something that's also maybe in conflict with another person. You got to bring your point. You got to bring who you are.
100%. So I totally agree with that. Definitely when individuals are going on the job interviews, they do need to be open and honest. And the organization interviewing them also needs to be open and honest as well, right? Because you don't want to start off with a false hope of insecurity or just falsification and just
Yeah.
things that are not going to start off on the right note and it's going to end quicker than what you really, would like
Yeah.
it to be. And that might really that's a sad situation because you could literally pass over a great person that you will have for many, many years, regardless on where they are, you know. And
Yeah.
even when we have, some individuals I might interview for at the front desk and associate, after they start working, they're like, hey, Charles, you know what? I'm really interested in learning how to assist. I think I might want to go to hygiene school.
That's cool.
Is that going to be a problem? No, it's not going to be a problem. And actually, you'll have a step up because you already are understanding one, how to communicate with people.
Yeah.
That's huge, right? You can learn how to communicate with people. You have some experience already with terminology, right? With coding, right? That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what a lot of people get stuck or they leave a position because they don't feel supported, you know? And I think having open communication with your team members is a true testament to the culture of your
Yes.
organization.
I agree. I agree. What kinds of other than knowing who you are and what you want, because sometimes you might think that you know what you want. But when you get an interview, what kinds of things do you think the candidate needs to know about themselves? And like second follow-up question, what kinds of things are you asking
Mhm,
that you want to know?
mhm. So, besides just going through the basics of looking at their resume, and that's another thing. When you're looking on Indeed, these resumes have not been updated, right? Because they may have been, looking for like the last couple of years and then stopped looking and just forgot to update it, right? So I don't let the resume that is on file dictate who the individual is. I'm not
Okay.
going to say no, pass, 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 right? I mean, there's some things that, if you see like job hoppers and you're like, okay, that's a red flag. But there has been situations where I said, you know what, something is telling me let's still interview the candidate. And when we found out why individuals may have been a job hopper, it was due to the culture of the organization that they were with. And so that's where I lead, right? After learning more about them, I said, what's important to you? Because we don't want to make the same mistakes that
Yeah, I love that.
you have occurred, right? You have endured. We don't want that to happen. Because again, this is a learning situation, right? We want to learn from our new team member. We want them to learn from us, and we want to do what? Grow together. And when I explain that to the candidate, you can see that they're like, "Well, thank you for asking. We thought that you may have passed up on us because of X, Y, and Z." And we
Yes.
say, "No, we don't let, what do they say, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Let's talk to you first." So I think that's one important thing that we do within our organization, and I know I was a huge proponent of this. We have a three-step process before we're gonna hire an individual.
Oh,
And yeah, and the reason why is because what we were finding is that we were calling people, we would talk to them, "Oh, okay, we like you, come on board." And then we found out wasn't a good match. Things just didn't work. And
mm,
so within 30 days, that individual might have had to either be asked to leave or they left on their own. So how can we combat that? What's that gap?
yeah.
Now our three-step process is we get the resume, we have a phone interview. I have our HR director, she'll do a phone interview. From there, what she will do is she will send over her notes to myself and the owner of our organization. We look through it, right? And she's like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I think, "Okay, I like this one. Let's go ahead and set them up for, a Zoom interview." And we do that. And then from there, it gives me an opportunity to tell them more about us, learn more about them, and then how I can help them grow. And if they're interested, and I can tell that they're interested with mentorship right away, this is a candidate we want to bring in for a working interview,
So tell me
right?
more about that mentorship.
So if I'm interviewing a hygienist and I'm saying, hey, tell me, how do you discuss oral cancer screening or periodontal disease with your patient, right? They've never heard about it before. You're the first time you're seeing this patient. Now you're telling them, Mr. Jones, I'm sorry, you're not, a healthy mouth cleaning. You're not getting your regular cleaning that you want to get.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's areas of disruption. So how do you explain that to them? They'll tell me, what they think and how they would explain it. And I'll say to them, excuse me, do you mind if I offer you a little bit of advice? This is how I would reframe that, right? And just listening to how they respond,
Ah,
I know I can mentor them and help them improve their communication with the patient, but then also utilizing some of the other resources and tools that we have so that they can be successful as a clinician, right? And getting that patient the care they need.
yeah,
So that's how.
that makes sense. I wasn't sure if you guys had a mentoring program, but that's a great example of how open someone is to growth and
Hmm.
to improvement
Hmm.
and learning and
Hmm.
unlearning
Yeah. Yeah.
behaviors and the things they've always done
Yeah.
because they've always done them that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do have a mentoring program, but that's the first step. And that's just me getting an idea if this individual will be willing to learn and grow. Right. And
I think that's brilliant.
that's just how we go about it. And I think that this way has been more successful because when I bring on a new team member after they have the working interview, they're happy, the team members are happy, we have that, offer. But I let them know in advance that they listen, we set our new team members up for success and not failure. We have a onboarding schedule, a whole system. I will spend, obviously the first couple of days with them. But then again, the first 30, the first 60, the first 90 days are the most important. So that individual can understand you're not a temporary worker. We want you to be a permanent worker. So we're going to set you up for success. So we're going to add layers to this onion. So after the first 30 days, you tell me, where are you feeling uncomfortable? What do we need to do? Right? I want to hear from you. And then we can set them up with additional training opportunities. If I need to bring a rep in, if I need them to work a little bit more as an assistant with the doctor on how to do a temporary, crown or something like that, that helps us. But the first mentorship period is going to be we're going over our OSHA program, we're going over our HIPAA program, we're going over our, new assistant guide, or if they're a front desk team member guide, or if they're an assistant, we're walking them through all phases from the beginning to the end, all types. We're going over, you
Love
know,
that.
yeah, different procedures, how to talk to people. Because it's you think it's easy, but it's not. you
Well,
know?
you only know that it's easy and what you're doing when you're in the silo because you're in your operatory and you think it's going one way, but the patient may be perceiving it a different way.
100, 100%. So that's how I can get a better understanding on if they're going to be willing to be mentored. And that's from the initial interview process. You can pick up on these things.
And I love when an office has onboarding. I have live courses, live hybrid on reevaluation and reskilling for dental hygiene skills. So hygienists who have been out of the profession for a little bit, because I want to get people back to work and back to what they love and comfortable and confident.
Yeah.
So they'll contact me. And there was one the other day that said, "Can you teach me?" Because I've been out of the profession for X amount of years. Can you teach me about so and so software, so and so software, so and so? And I said, I can teach you about one. But what I think that's important to consider is that you may end up in office that's got a completely other one. And so you've prepared over here and you're over here, but a lot of them are very similar. It's just you click here and click here. But the most important point that I think that when you're interviewing is that you look for an office that's going to have that onboarding, that's going to support you. And a lot of times, Char, and I'm not sure if your office, if your organization offers this, sometimes there's like a dummy account that they can play around with, and they can do it at home even. And so they're not having to sit whatever in an office in front of operatory if they don't want to. I don't know how yours is set up and learn where to click and what's not going to connect and what it triggers and all of this. So building that confidence in that way, I think that onboarding is such a key critical. It's so understated and what people need to ask for when they're coming into a new practice because it's like, here you go.
Right. Just throw them in. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the things that the hygienists get antsy about, I know, is where things are, what kind of instruments they have, and what kind of system they're using.
Yeah.
Those are the top 3 things, am I gonna have what I need? Am I gonna run behind because I don't have what I need or don't because I don't know the system? So I think that's amazing. With the 3rd stage where it is a working interview, is that what you
Yes.
said? How does
Yes.
that work?
Yeah. So with the working interview, we ask them, if obviously if they're willing, because things have been progressing pretty well from our conversations, and when they are willing, it's perfect. We look at a schedule where it'll be productive for them, but not anything where it's going to be crazy. That's just not fair for any new individual coming into a practice who's unfamiliar. But we want them to they arrive 30 minutes in advance. We're there, we're going over, the basics with them. I want to make sure that, the team members obviously are aware so they can be a part of like the huddle, and they can have a conversation with the doctor and the assistant and just open up drawers and see where things are, right? And then we help them throughout the day. So, whether it's like you said, learning the software, we're going over that. We're helping them with their, perio charting and learning all of the different sensors and how to set that up for x-rays. And then I don't want to overbear them, right? So I'm not over their shoulders. I don't want to micromanage, but I'm always a ear's length away. So if they need anything, I can just literally run and pass something to them.
Yeah.
We allow them to, digress, come out after the first patient. Hey, how's everything going? What do you need? You're doing great. I try to give them a lot of positive reinforcement because they get nervous. It doesn't matter if you've been an assistant for a year or 20 years.
That's right.
Doesn't
It's
matter.
that you don't know you're cooking in somebody else's kitchen for, like, the first week. You don't
Hello.
know where things are, where the gauze is. You thought it was there. It's
Yeah.
over here too.
Yeah. Had someone, she was so nervous, she was like, "I can't even find the garbage can." I'm like, "No, no, it's fine, it's behind you. There's a hole right there, just throw it in." You know what I mean? Like, "It's okay, calm down." So, I try to make it as fun and as comfortable as I can. Our team members do the exact same thing. We wanna welcome them, and then at the end of the day, after they leave, we touch base. The next day, our HR director will contact them and say, "Hey, how did everything go? How are you feeling?" You know what I mean, and give them some positive reinforcement, and hopefully make them an offer.
Yeah. So what is your I know that in the beginning of our conversation, we're talking about bridging the gap. Like, how do we bridge the gap with a person looking, the office who can't seem to find the right fit? What do you think the solution is?
Unfortunately, there is a battle between temp agencies and permanent employees, right, within the
Oh,
organization.
interesting.
Yeah, because when you work for a temporary, service, they pay higher wages, right? And what we have found in some of the conversations that we have with people that might come in to temp with us, and we'll like them, and we'll say, "Hey, are you looking for a permanent position?" A few are like, "Yeah, absolutely." And others were like, "No, I'm good because I like the freedom to make my own schedule." And I can
Mhm.
totally understand that, you
Right.
know, totally understand that. So the ways around that with us, with individuals are like, I like my freedom, da da da. That's fine. We can offer them a part-time position, right? Still something that's going to work within the days that they are currently working, right? That's a area that we can try to close the gap. But the other is, how do you feel about going into a practice that you're not comfortable with almost every day? You
Yeah.
don't know that practice,
Yeah.
you know, and trying to tell them yes, the hourly might be better, but the uncomfortability is not.
Yeah.
The
The
uncertainty
not knowing what to expect.
is not knowing what to expect. Whereas you can have your one home, develop it the way that you want, have that family atmosphere and support, right? We can help you enhance your techniques, your resources. Because when I'm speaking to some of the people that are temping, they're like, "Yeah, I've been temping for the last year, and now I'm interviewing, and I just feel that I've gotten so far behind with things. They're not up to date." Some of them, are like, "Oh, well, I've never used the scanner before," or,
Mhm.
you know, "I'm not comfortable with, the different dental softwares as you mentioned," right? Um, I just wanna be in one place. I'm tired of the wear and tear on my vehicle, you know? And
Yeah,
so we listen to what's bothering them and we tell them how we could be the solution for that. So that's the
yeah.
gap.
So you mentioned the pay of staying that the temporary company pays more when they stay. How do you overcome that portion of it when they are looking to stay with the temp agency or come to you work with you for part-time
And
status?
because they don't get the additional benefits. You might get a higher hourly, but you're not getting additional benefits as maybe it's, paid time off, sick leave,
Right.
the 401ks, the different advantages that you have when you work for an organization. Um, Also too, like we mentioned, they're not getting the educational aspect. We have relationships with vendors and, that can come in and give them CE, give them on-site training, and helping them with their development. Or they're not even getting the mentorship, within our organization. They can get cosmetic mentorship from our doctor owner. She's huge with cosmetics within our community. Or if they're getting leadership experience and maybe they want to move up, from just a front desk associate to an office manager. We have our executive team that literally are in offices every day. And we're mentoring individuals to grow,
Yeah.
right? So they won't get that if they're looking to be, outside of just doing chairside hygiene. Hey, I've done it all, so I'm mentoring them. And I have another executive team member who's also a hygienist. She's mentoring as well. You know, we've
So
had
it sounds like
individuals.
you're providing the benefit
Yeah,
is the support.
it's the support and it's ongoing. It's ongoing. You don't have to if it's something you need, we're there to support you, and if we don't have it, we're gonna find that resource to get it for you,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah,
Yeah.
the freedom is nice, but what are you giving up,
Yeah.
to have that freedom?
Yeah. So I think this gives our listeners a good perspective on some things to ask about when you're interviewing, things to consider that may have been no, or things that you may not have felt comfortable asking
Yeah,
or experiencing. Just saying, do you have a mentoring program? What is your onboarding process like? What is the time frame for that? Do you have other support? What kind of training do you offer? Those are all amazing questions that help you understand if it's right sized and the right fit for you. Because what's the cost, Char, would you say, for every employee that's hired? It costs a company about $3,500 for every new hire, around that.
yeah,
Because your time, human resources, ads, whatever it is.
it's
So
a
it costs a lot of money for a company to hire a person.
it is a lot, and that's why it's extremely important, to get the right individual, right? And, even and to retain the individuals because the people that you have working for you right now, you want to make sure that they're happy, they have what they need because you don't want to lose those team members. You
Yeah,
want them to be invested. So that's the other thing too is listening to them and surveying them like, hey, you've been with the organization for over a year now, what do you think is going on? What's the positive? What's the negative? What would you do differently?
I love
Because
that.
you have to listen to your team because they'll have some really good ideas and won't say anything because they're like, well, they don't think that you care.
Yeah, the best ideas come from the floor. What I always
100%. 100%.
Yeah,
We have some really good team members that are even creative and they can do great marketing and, or they're doing, you know, something with scripting to help other people have communication, progress. I mean, they do so many good things. And it's just like, wait a minute, we can really utilize the people that we have here,
and the
right?
skill
And
sets.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah. It makes no sense. Like, you don't always have to hire outside when you have the right people right in front of you.
That's right. And that's a part of knowing who you are and what you want. Charo, thank you so much for this conversation. It's cool seeing the insiders I say insider, inside the organization, that side of things, helping us understand, the listeners understand some things that are part of the friendly conversation that we may not have considered before. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Again.
Yeah. Yes, it's a delight. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. And for our listeners, I always ask for you to go on over to Apple Podcasts to give us the Dental Handoff a 5-star rating, please. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and press the like button and subscribe so you're notified when there are new episodes that come out every Tuesday at 2. We will see you, my friends. Thank you for the good work that you're doing. Until then, take care.